All right. I think this song's on. That's the worst thing about doing this is you don't know if it's on or not. Okay, so it's Miss Giza King here again today. I'm going to be helping you with day 24 and 25. This was assigned on Monday. A lot of you have turned it in for me, but I want to help those out who haven't. So this assignment was supposed to take place over 2 class days. We've been trying to be diligent that if an assignment takes 15 minutes for us, it might take you guys 30 minutes. So that's kind of how we're measuring days. So we're trying not to give more than 30 minutes of work a day. So that's why we decided this assignment might take you 2 days. Some of you are going to get it done in one and have a free day. So anyway, let's get started. It says, please read the Human Impacts on the Environment Unit Introduction. This will explain what you will be learning about in this unit. Ecosystem services. It's important to understand and realize what nature provides to us, which we sometimes take for granted and don't really think about. Since very often in our global world, money talks. One way to think about what ecosystems provide is to value them in a money terms. We provided you with a short article and a short video about ecosystem services and formatted response assignment. Watch, read, then respond. So the first direction up here was please read the human impacts on the environment. So I'm going to read through this because that was the suggestion given to us. Human impacts on the environment. This is the whole idea behind what we're teaching the rest of the school year. So for the rest of the school year, we'll be studying human impacts on the environment. This area of inquiry goes by several names. Ecology, environmental studies, and the idea of creating sustainable development are just a few ways of describing it. There's so much to explore with this unit that what we'd like you to do is learn a little bit about each of these subjects and then go deep with a topic that you're most interested in. Of course, many of these topics are interrelated and we'll be developing guided pathways for you to follow. This is definitely a time to take your education and life seriously and begin to learn how to become part of the solution to many challenges which will fall to your generation to overcome. So last assignment, you should have learned about the 17 sustainable goals. As you can see, this is a big list of topics which are interrelated. We will be focusing on several of them: life on land, life below water, climate, and industry, affordable and clean energy, responsible consumption and production, clean water and sanitation, no poverty, zero hunger, and good health and well-being. Okay, so now that we've read that, let's get started. We're going to watch this video. So I'm going to play this video for you. Well, yeah, I'm going to play the video for you. It's 9 minutes long, but then you don't have to stop the video and go back and watch it. I didn't need to take it to the link, but whatever. We're talking about why biodiversity is important. I don't know why it does this every time. It's probably going to restart because that's what it does. Yep. Kobe. Okay. So that video is kind of a lot, but hopefully you were able to understand some of it and give you a little background for the article we're about to read. So what I'm doing now is this is the reading and this is the response page. So I'm going to make a copy of the response page so that I can type in it and submit my answers to my teachers. So when these load, so remember I said you could leave it copy as. Sometimes it might help your teacher if instead of that you write your name. And I'm just going to change the folder so this doesn't go to all the science teachers because we share that. So I'm just going to put it in my drive. Okay, so now I have an actual worksheet that I can type in the article. Excuse if you hear my children in the background. Okay, so ecosystem services. What are ecosystem services? So have you ever considered that the cereal you eat is brought to you each morning by the wind, or that the glass of clear, cold, clean water drawn from your faucet may have been purified for you by the wetland or perhaps the root system in the entire forest? 2013 front yard work, I don't understand that, okay, to trap dust, dirt, and harmful gases from the air you breathe, the bright fire of oak logs you light to keep warm on cold nights, and the medicine you take to ease the pain of an ailment come to you from nature's warehouse of services. Natural ecosystems perform fundamental life support services upon which human civilization depends. Unless human activities are carefully planned and managed, valuable ecosystems will continue to be impaired or destroyed. So what are ecosystem services? Ecosystem services are the processes by which the environment produces resources that we often take for granted, such as clean water, timber, habitat for fisheries, and pollution of native and agricultural plants. Whether we find ourselves in a city or a rural area, the ecosystems in which humans live provide goods and services that are very similar to us. Ecosystems provide services that moderate weather extremes and their impacts, disperse seeds, mitigate drought and floods, protect people from the sun's harmful ultraviolet rays, cycle and move nutrients, protect stream and river channels and coastal shores from erosion, detoxify and decompose waste, control agricultural pests, maintain biodiversity, generate and preserve soils and renew their fertility, contribute to climate stability, purify the air and water, regulate disease-carrying organisms, and pollinate crops and natural vegetation. Wow. So what is an ecosystem? An ecosystem is a community of animals and plants interacting with one another and with their physical environment. Ecosystems include physical and chemical components such as soil, water, nutrients that support the organisms living there. These organisms may range from large animals and plants to microscopic bacteria. Ecosystems include the interactions among all organisms in a given habitat. People are part of ecosystems. The health and well-being of human populations depends upon the services provided by ecosystems and their components: organisms, soil, water, and nutrients. So just think about, biomes. We talk about biomes, something that we really didn't get to a lot before we left, but like you learn biomes in 6th grade and elementary, I'm sure. You have the ocean as a biome, you have the rainforest, you have the temperate forest. These are all areas where soil, water, nutrients, and all the organisms that live there play a part in how that ecosystem works. So what are ecosystem services worth? Natural ecosystems and the plants and animals within them provide humans with services that would be difficult to duplicate. While it is often impossible to place an accurate monetary amount on ecosystem services, we can calculate some of the financial values. Many of these services are performed seemingly for free, yet are worth many trillions of dollars. For example, much of the Mississippi River values natural flood protection services were destroyed when adjacent wetlands were drained and channels altered. As a result, the 1993 floods resulted in property damages estimating at $12 billion, partially from the inability of the valley to lessen the impacts of high volumes of water. 80% of the world's population relies upon natural medicinal products. Of the top 150 prescription drugs used in the United States, 118 originate from natural sources. 74% from plants, 18% from fungus, and 15% from bacteria, 3% from one vertebrate snake species. 9 of the 10 top drugs originate from natural plant products. Over 100,000 different animal species, including bats, bees, flies, moths, beetles, birds, and butterflies, provide free pollination services. 1/3 of human food comes from plants pollinated by wild pollinators. The value of pollination services from wild pollinators in the US alone is estimated at $4 to $6 billion per year. So these things that happen naturally in the world have a value. And if you want to put a monetary value on it, meaning a money value, they're almost priceless. You know, you've seen the bee movie, and we know how important bees are to every ecosystem, especially in the Midwest. We could not, it would be detrimental not to our ecosystem to not have bees. So that's what this is saying. So before it became overwhelmed by agriculture and sewage runoff, the watershed at Catskill Mountains provided New York City with water ranked among the best in the nation by Consumer Reports. When the water fell below quality standards, the city investigated what it would cost to install an artificial filtration plant. The estimated price tag for this new facility was $6 to $8 billion, a high price to pay for what was once free. New York City decided instead to invest a fraction of that cost, $660 million, in restoring the natural capital it had in Catskill's watershed. In 1997, the city raised an environmental bond issue and is currently using the funds to purchase land and halt development in the watershed to compensate property owners for developmental restrictions on their land and to subsidize the improvement of septic systems. So a lot of money for something that was once free. How are ecosystem services cut off? Ecosystem services are so fundamental to life that they're easy to take for granted and so large in scale that it's hard to imagine that human activity can destroy them. Nevertheless, ecosystem services are severely threatened through one, growth in the scale of human enterprise, population size, per capita consumption, meaning how many people live in one space and what are they consuming, and how this affects technologies to produce goods for consumption. And two, a mismatch between short-term needs and long-term societal well-being. So many human activities disrupt, impair, and re-engineer ecosystems every day, including runoff of pesticides, fertilizers, and animal waste. So when we spray, our farmers spray their crops so that bugs don't eat them and they have more food at the end of the harvest season. These pesticides and fertilizers do drain into our water systems. We have pollution of land, water, and air sources. We know that factories pollute the air. We know humans pollute land and water with plastics and paper and styrofoam and all kinds of waste. Introduction of non-native species. I used to show a video on this that pretty much people are letting go their animals, their pets, because they're irresponsible pet owners and they can't take care of them. They release them into non-habitable, like that's not where they are from, and they are ruining the ecosystem in which you have placed them. Over-harvesting fisheries, this would be overfishing an area, destructing wetlands, erosion of soil, deforestation, which means cutting down trees, and foliage, urban sprawl, so this means growing cities. So ecology and ecosystem services. Ecologists work to help us understand the interconnection and interdependence of the many plant and animal communities within ecosystems. Although substantial understanding of many ecosystem services and the scientific principles underlying them already exist, there's still much to learn. The trade-offs among different services within an ecosystem, the role of biodiversity in maintaining services, and the efforts of long-term and short-term perturbations, and just some of the questions that need to be further explored. The answers to such questions will provide information critical to the development of manageable strategies that will protect ecosystems and help maintain the provisions of the services upon which we depend. The choices we make today and how we use land and water services will have enormous consequences on the future stability of Earth's ecosystems and the services they provide. Okay, a lot of information, so I understand if you feel overwhelmed right now. So response to ecosystem. We watched the YouTube video and we've read it. So, excuse me. what is an ecosystem anyway? Use the resources provided to write a good, clear definition of what scientists mean by ecosystem. So I will go back to the part that I would use to answer this. Not at this moment, honey, I'm working, I'm doing a video. Okay, so what are ecosystem services? Ecosystem services are the processes by which the environment produces resources that we often take for granted, such as clean water, timber, habitat for fisheries, and pollination of natural and artificial plants. Okay, so that's something I would type right there. If you need to pause this video to move forward, please do. All right, list at least 4 of the specific services that the ecosystem you provide and write a brief statement about each. Think about local examples. So 4 specific services that ecosystems provide. Okay, whoops, I don't want this up here. So here are a list of ecosystem services that are provided. So think about Alton and think about what is in Alton that an ecosystem might provide to the Alton area or the St. Louis metro area. So we have moderate weather extremes and their impacts, disperse seeds, mitigate drought and floods, protect people from the sun's harmful violent rays, cycle and move nutrients, protect stream and river channels, detoxify and decompose waste. So you can list any of these and then you can explain either of them. I'm so sorry. With how you think any of these would help our ecosystem. So let me just give you one example. So we have the lock-in dam. So that would be mitigate droughts and floods. So a dam helps do that. So you could say that's something that is done in Alton. What's something else that happens in our area? Moderate weather extremes and impacts. We get tornado warnings a lot in the spring. We get extreme heat, extreme winters, things like that. So that's 2 of the 4 if you want to use those. I know mommy's doing a video. Come here. You want me to hold you? Okay. Explain the trade-offs. You are hungry? Leave them something to eat. He's not going to eat out of that. Okay. Explain the trade-offs and costs of clean water using famous example from New York City. So in the video, it explained what happened to the clean water in New York City and what the cost was to try to fix that. So if you go to the video, you can either rewatch the video or there is an example here. What is the ecosystem? Self-services. Right here in the, no, was that, yes. The blue box explains that. So you can use that to answer number 3. And the knowledge you learned from the video about the factory that was ruining the water. Okay, what are some of the human activities which can disrupt healthy functioning ecosystems? List at least 4 and think about what we could do to stop them. Write a brief statement. Okay, so human activities. I gave you a few. I explained them. I listed them. Hang on, son, don't touch them. Okay, so runoff of pesticides. So I explained that. Fertilizer, what farmers do and why there is pesticide in fertilizer. So what's something that we can do? Actually, some farmers are doing these things. So what's something that we can do to stop that? Pollution of land, water, and air resources. Well, humans do this a lot. What's one way that we can stop polluting the land and the water? Introduction of non-native species. I told you what that was. How can we stop that? Over-harvesting fisheries. How can we stop fishing in one area? I know one example of over hunting. We have to stop over hunting. You have to have a tag to hunt. Your turn. you have to have a tag to hunt so many deer. So in the Midwest, you have, or in every state, you have to get tags for how many deer. Okay, Crosby, your turn. You want to kill. So they keep the number of deer still thriving in an environment, but not an overpopulation of deer. So there are rangers and park, the government hires people to study these deer and how many are in environments and how many we can afford to hunt. So then they say, okay, we have this many buck tags and this many doe tags, and this is how many you can hunt. So what could we do to help that maybe in fisheries? Deforestation is an easy one you could talk about, and building up cities. So I think I gave you plenty of examples to help you here. You need to give at least 4. And that is the end. So yes, I know that this video is kind of long, but remember, you can pause this at any time and start the next day, as it could be a 2-day assignment. All right, you guys have a good one. I'll talk to you later.